And while I'm at it, I've been having like big laughs all day on that Twitter. There's been a leak, hasn't there? Nuclear. One of the words that I've pointed to for a while is to say, when the government runs out of weapons it can throw, when it runs out of ideas that it can invoke to frighten people, they will reach for nuclear. And I put this out. I've been saying it for years. At first sniff of it, I'm always saying, "Oh, this one. This is a good one. This is the most fun." It's like people my age, we got taught about the prospect of nuclear annihilation at school, and then programmed into us from the movies. It sort of runs actually parallel with my own, as to where localized sort of brainwashing that I was told by the doctors that I was going to die, and it's a matter of, well, society had been telling me for a very, very long time that I probably wouldn't make it past 25 because the world would have been destroyed by then. Oh, they used to drum that nuclear fear shit up in us kids as to where we were terrified. It had a marked effect on all of us. You get to a certain age, though, and it's funny. You get to a certain age and a level of understanding as to say, well, it's funny because it is a thing. It's like there isn't a nuclear war, but the idea of it's a very, very powerful notion, powerful enough as to where it has made people change their behaviour. It's a powerful incentive, all right. It's like when you suss out that the magic of the bomb is as an imaginary weapon. It's like, oh, no wonder fear ran riot during the Cold War. It's like, no matter if your government was like fucking you royally and the whole place was ready to be up in arms, what they do is they they deploy on you a kind of contrived nuclear event, or find a reason to make the talking point that month the prospect of nuclear war and arms treaties and things like that. They do that. It was a very powerful psychological weapon that the mainstream used to actually deploy all the time. And then when you look at, say you look at Hollywood and you say it's woke, and it's, well, if you look back, if you were to apply the same standard to the 1980s, a lot of the movies were like death, exploitation, post-apocalyptic, dystopian, and it's like that in itself was a kind of programming. Live while you can, kids, because all it takes is one lunatic to push the button. That silly, that ridiculous, and it have that ability to frighten people. We've been to the brink. It's like, no, you haven't. The TV just said you had. It's like the original absurdity is how the fuck of governments, politicians got control of such weapons, and how much money did they cost, and how much money are we spending keeping them in service. It's like you've inherited something from the previous generation that we don't really fucking want. Now what are you going to do with it? So it's an absurdity and an elephant in the room in any budget or spending plan by any government anywhere. What's going on with the nuclear weapons side? Never went away. They stopped talking about it because they had other things. They had other ways of doing it. They couldn't really make so much money out of that kind of doom, so they had to flip over. The nuclear scientist who'd frighten you to death became an environmentalist who frightened you to death. They just all switched side. So it's like, when they want to whip up some fear, if they want to get some extra dramatic effect, they reach for the mind control, the life-destroying, fear-based mind control of the 1960s, 70s and 80s, because those people are still in the world. It might just work on them, and to introduce notions into the weak imaginations of the NPC guys who were already thinking that the world would be destroyed by climate change and the like, to introduce to them the notion of fucking instant climate change by fission might be enough to just overload their tiny little minds. Excuse me. It's like, yeah, they can't handle that. They can't live in that world. They're too paranoid. Start suggesting it to them, and they're going to start popping off fucking super crazy about it. They're going to become hysterical. There are those of us in the world who, in our way, were radicalised by the bomb. And it's become a private hilarity to so many. So the things you can reach for at this point in time where these links have been made are hilarious. I was beaten to my own joke. I have this joke I like, which is a weak joke, but it's a big joke. And I put it out to people. If on your travels you come across any plutonium, give me a shout. I've been looking for some. And don't worry if we need to like transport it ourselves. If you can find some, I will go and hire a van, just if you find any. Say, I've got a plan to hold the world to ransom. Really? It's like, yeah. I'm going to build a nuclear weapon in a shed. It's like I am struggling with a few of the components, and from what I can gather, the plutonium and like maybe uranium products I'm going to need to get it to work, they're going to be the hardest thing to get hold of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put out feelers for them, but in the meantime, I know where I can get a big enough shed to do it. So I might be halfway there. All I'm really short of is like the processed nuclear fuel that costs like millions to make and isn't just anywhere. It's the Back to the Future joke. I think it's hilarious to start talking shit like that, because in this two words, nuclear weapon, or even this word plutonium, that doesn't mean anything to you, and you don't understand that, well, that's a very, very hard to refine product and extremely difficult to gather, even when you can create it, but then to collect it's a different thing altogether. It's like most of the electricity during the night, in the United States during the war, was being dedicated to actually creating that stuff, to enriching uranium. Fuck me, the Manhattan Project was a project, wasn't it? So you say plutonium, and you think of it like in Back to the Future as like in there it's like a test tube full of red liquid. It wouldn't look like that, but hey, it'd be like, yes, the final product from the entire Manhattan Project, and Doc Brown's got himself a box full of it. And it'd be, where'd you get that from? It's like the Iranians. And it'd be, yes, they wanted me to build them a bomb. And I gave them a bomb casing full of used pinball machine parts. Likely looked a lot like a bomb. And he's like, they've found me. I don't know how, but they've found me. And why's that? Well, they try to set the bomb off. The trick of selling someone a fake nuclear weapon, it's a fucking good trick. The only way you'd find out is if you've been ripped off is if you try to set it off. And then if it didn't go off when you set it off, it's like, you motherfucker, my nuclear weapon didn't go off. What are you going to do? Go to the fucking newspapers? What are you going to do? Call the cops and said, I bought this nuclear weapon off this scientist who assured me that this was the real deal. He had this great big shed that he'd built it in, and he was like very confident. I want my money back. It's like, can't something be done about this terrible shyster? I paid good money for this nuclear weapon. It's the dirtiest, funniest, most fertile sort of imaginary playground there is. And it's like Cenk Uygur on Twitter letting on that the nuclear codes might be a thing. That if someone was to get a hold of like the nuclear codes, they'd be able to like get on a fucking thing. Bing, bang, 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 bang. And, order a few nukes. then being another one of my jokes about Trump. It's like a joke I have is like, well, if I was president all the time, I'd just be just for a laugh threatening to nuke people. It's like I'd make it such a joke. It'd be a matter of if you like spilled water, I'd threaten to nuke you. It's like, well, you know what's going to happen next time, don't you? And all the time, if you've got this nuclear football thing, you'd have it like out all the time and be fucking about with it, and then you'd be like setting it going to launch all these missiles, and be like having people playing chicken with people. It's like, shall I do it? Shall I do it? Shall I do it? And then just stopping it last second. Like, it's a good game, isn't it? I'd be doing that. It's like, don't mess with me. Why? It's like, I have got control of like all of our weapons. If I was Donald Trump, I'd be cracking on to foreign leaders, which he did, that the US had weapons that you'd never heard of, and that you don't know that these things exist yet, and we've got them, and we can like blow you away from orbit. I'd have been endlessly mouthing off like that, and it appears that Trump wasn't. There was a brilliant joke with Mr. Garrison as Trump in South Park, where he is as President Garrison, and he's dealing with a situation. It gets a little bit out of hand, and he just gives it that, take the shot, and this, witch gets just annihilated from space. Some laser beam. It's like, we're in the world of that, aren't we? If we want to start talking about nuclear codes, secret files. It's like, what a load of shit. It's like, what's happened here is the fake news has overstepped the mark and thrown something out that they can't control, being a nuclear reaction. So what we've got now is, it's a convenient thing to believe for some that Donald Trump may, having nuclear, not understanding nuclear other than might just take the bait and mouth off really ridiculously, like, I'm waiting for someone to say, we don't know what goes on beneath Mar-a-Lago. There could be anything down there. There could be uranium enrichment, drugs labs, weapons factories. He could be making missiles down there. We don't know. Do we know what goes on beneath Mar-a-Lago? I'm just dying for someone to... The fear to make them make that extra leap where Scott Adams made it for him when he says... He put the two and two together, the obvious. It's like, how do we know that Trump isn't trying to make a nuclear weapon at Mar-a-Lago? And I'm like, you fucking get it. Scott Adams has been baiting him with nuclear bullshit all day. Because as soon as you start to put the words nuclear and what if together, you can come up with more or less any movie you want. Can't you? Nuclear what if. This is the reason why the world should entrust me with the fucking nuclear football. You should have let me have it. I've already thought about what I'd do. It'd be like, hello? Yeah, well, where is it? We're supposed to arrive at 9 o'clock this morning, and it's like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, I'll give you one warning. If it's not here by 6, I'm going to nuke your asses. See ya. And mean it. It's my favourite joke of all.